How long does Fred Vasseur have at Ferrari to bring back the F1 World Championship to Maranello?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. And when you first wrote that in our chat, I almost laughed, and I was framing my response, but as it turns out, was to a different question that I thought you had asked, but you have asked a different question. Anyway, so uh, I think Fred Vasseur has typically 2 years to, if you think about it, you give a new leader, a new team principal, 1 year to get us accustomed to it, the team together basically, and follow
It's
his yeah.
it's interesting you say that, but I don't think that is the attitude that the new CEO is going into this recruitment with.
Y-
I don't think that is the sentiment that the Ferrari leadership shares in recruiting Fred Vasseur for leading Ferrari. Because if you remember the comments that came out of the Ferrari leadership when they were sacking Mattia Binotto, essentially was that we don't see Ferrari winning a championship with Mattia, and we need someone else who can do that sooner than later. Obviously, I'm
yeah,
paraphrasing, and what that told me was they don't see you winning with Mattia next year because they feel they had the car this year and Mattia couldn't deliver, and they want someone who can deliver on the promise of the car,
that
which is why Fred Vasseur is coming in. So my first reaction was, obviously, I'm sorry I
yeah, no, that's
interrupted
fine,
you
that's
and
fine.
carry on. Even my first reaction was 2 years. But I think realistically, Fred Vasseur only has a year, and that is it to convince Ferrari's top brass that he's the man to do it.
Yeah, see, now that brings me to what I thought your question was when you put it in the chat.
All right, let's get
And
into
I
it.
thought you just Fred Vasseur has before he gets sacked, right? Before like he becomes one of many Ferrari team principals who have been coming in and going out. So for that I have a like it's a multiple choice question for me. It's
All
it,
right, let's go
it's either
through it.
2 years. The second option is 1 year less than he says he needs. That is exactly what happened with Mattia Benotto. And the third option is a classic Ferrari option, 1 year more than when the CEO is. That's again what happened with Mattia Benotto.
I think that is the best case scenario for Fred Vasseur, that the CEO
Yeah,
changes at the end of next season, and he is able to keep his job. I think that is
exactly.
that is the best case scenario. But the reason I put this question back into our episode, even though we talked about it a little bit last week, was I don't think we covered in detail as to what why this Fred Vasseur decision was maybe a little bit different from other decisions. I think the top thing that people have talked about in print, like in social media and reporting in journalism, has Ferrari promotion or recruit for that team principal
Yep.
position since
Yep.
John Todd, and which is why hopes are high. And obviously, Fred Vasseur brings a wealth of experience and knowledge and whatnot, right? Uh, but is Fred Vasseur the same as John Todd? And with Fred Vasseur coming in, I think it raises multiple questions for me, at least from team leadership, or like who are the people who are going to actually run the team perspective. And when I say that, we often talk about John Todd, Ross Brawn, and Michael Schumacher. And if you remember, like when we talk about this, we really concentrate on these people, but we forget about the people who didn't really have a say in how the team was run or what was being done. And the top name in that is Rubens Barrichello, who came probably the closest to beating Michael Schumacher or to his talent while at Ferrari, right? So this begs the question that is there a possibility that we might see Carlos Sainz leaving Ferrari if Fred Vasseur starts working with Charles Leclerc, and that relationship takes, the foreground in the Ferrari family moving forward in order to win that championship?
Yeah, I mean,
Because we covered the Charles Leclerc connection with Fred
exactly.
Vasseur
That is what.
last week, but we didn't really cover the aspect of Carlos Sainz being pushed out, essentially because he might not be treated the same as he is under Mattia Binotto, and the situation for him might get worse. Because while Mattia was there, all we heard was that Charles and Mattia's relationship was getting worse
Yep.
and worse because of the way Mattia was operating the team, and Charles wasn't getting the preferential treatment he would have won. So this is another layer to this recruitment that might play out in the future.
Yeah, that's true. But of course, the Fred Vasseur angle definitely puts Charles Leclerc's position as of now, before the season starts, and while we are speculating, it definitely puts Charles Leclerc on a higher step than Carlos Sainz. But I think Ferrari need to be careful here, because we have seen, like, in this day and age, we have seen Daniel Ricciardo leave Red Bull because he didn't want to be treated as a second driver, right? And when you think about it, that Red Bull second seat, while it is a very attractive seat in terms of success and everything, a really ambitious driver like Daniel Ricciardo wouldn't want to be in that seat, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So if Ferrari start treating Carlos Sainz in that particular way, and they lose Carlos Sainz, there's little chance that they will get another highly ambitious, not even successful, but a good driven driver who is looking for success in that second seat. They might get maybe a Valtteri Bottas kind of driver. Like no disrespect to Valtteri or Sergio,
I know what you're
right?
saying, yeah.
But it creates that sort of situation which we have at Red Bull right now.
And the second part of this recruitment, which has, so like, obviously we'll talk about Audi, I guess, or Sauber in a bit. Obviously Andrew Seidel moved to Sauber, but only as a CEO, and his next job is to recruit basically a team principal for the team. Now the interesting thing about Fred Vasseur is he's moved into the team principal role. Now Fred himself is a great engineer. Is he a technical director through and through, like Mattia Binotto was for Ferrari? I would disagree with that. And it has been interesting that although people have talked about Fred Vasseur becoming a team principal, the aspect of a new technical director or a director of operation, race engineering or track engineering, has not been really discussed in the media at all, or no news has come out of Ferrari regarding that. And obviously Fred Vasseur will officially, I think, come into the role or move into the role in January or something like that. So there's still some time for that conversation, but there hasn't been any speculation as to whether, like, who is going to step up to the technical director role, whether it's going to come from within Ferrari, or is there going to be more recruitment that Fred Vasseur and the Ferrari leadership are going to do for the next season and moving forward.
Yeah, I mean...
And I think that is a gap that needs to be filled. And it is only if that gap is filled will Fred Vasseur be able to come close to the expectations that are being put out for him.
Yeah, I genuinely feel hiring from outside is the right decision, because they hired from outside. Like, Fred Vasseur came in from outside, and if they get a leadership that has come in from outside, if Fred Vasseur hires a competent and a good technical director who shares his views, I think that will change the way Ferrari works. The operation, like, we always question Ferrari's operational abilities throughout the season, right? And we always question their culture, their maybe, like, whatever it is. But Ferrari has a very old culture going back ages, and it just keeps on going, right? So a new team principal, a new leadership coming from outside is probably the way to go. And Mattia Binotto, with team principal Mattia Binotto also had his official title was general manager or something like that.
I think he was also the CTO, Chief Technical Officer for Ferrari.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't remember both. And Fred Vasseur also has an additional responsibility. I don't remember the exact words, but, like, the difference in their additional responsibility puts Fred Vasseur on a higher management level than Mattia Binotto was on. Like, Mattia Binotto was on a management level, but at the team level, and Fred Vasseur goes a step higher to the entire organization or something like that. So yeah, he definitely needs someone to be with him and to lead the technical side of it. And because Fred Vasseur is, like, he's more of a businessman than he is an engineer or, like, something like that, right? I mean, he did ARTGP and everything, right? So like that's how I'm looking at it. But yeah, he needs someone.
But here, here's the last aspect of it, right? And I think we touched upon it a little bit last week also, and that is the similarities between what we have seen at Ferrari and Sauber throughout, at least especially the last year, this 2022 season, and then fell away as the season went on. And it's not like Sauber didn't have operational inefficiencies. Like early on in the season, Sauber lost points for two reasons: engine failure because of bad, unreliable Ferrari engines, and really bad pit stops and strategy calls. So, for someone who's coming from running Sauber and making those mistakes, to replacing someone in order to basically do away with the same mistakes, it doesn't exactly bode well as to what is to come. So that is another aspect of it that I feel hasn't been discussed a lot. And obviously, usually what happens when there's a new announcement, people want to look at the positives and tend to look at the positives of the new recruit, but it's not enough to just look at that and sign off and say, oh, we'll see what's going to happen next season, if you don't if you're not preempting these pitfalls happen. Like I remember we talked about when people were talking about after testing this year in 2022, oh, Ferrari's going to blow it out of the water, they look so great. And I was like, wait, even if they win the first 5 races, they're not going to keep up with the technical development throughout the season. And that is exactly what happened, because those are just culture things that are inbuilt into the team and the way they operate. And that is not something you can just do away with overnight.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm curious as to what alternatives did Ferrari have for the role of, team principal, like other than Fred Vasseur, because to me,
see, I said the best case scenario would have been they could have still hired Fred Vasseur or anyone else to support Mattia Binotto, and Mattia Binotto could have gone back to the factory.
Like to me, Fred Vasseur looks sort of like a lowest hanging fruit because he has Formula One experience. Again, see, no disrespect to him, but. Yeah, I think I'm going off in the wrong direction because I have no clue what,
all right.
how, like I'll find myself in some very bad waters then.
I mean, if you can justify it, I'm all ears, but it's a bit rough. I'll tell you that. Rough, I'll tell you that.
Because see, we didn't get any other rumor, at least, not even a rumor. As soon as we heard that Mattia might go, the only name coming out was Fred Vasseur. And like Fred has Formula One experience. They are not hiring from outside Formula One as such. Fred has Formula One experience. Fred has experience with the Ferrari power unit and all those things. So again, I'll stop here then. I'll stop here.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. And I understand what you recruit from like a top team. Yeah. So I'll save you some face there. I understand it's not like a top team recruit. It's not like James Allison is coming to Ferrari or I don't know, Adrian Newey or one of his associates coming to Ferrari. So I understand what you were going for, but let's not go down that route.
Yeah,
and, get caught